I'm going to take the letter that we designed in my last video, and I'm going to experiment with some different styles of serifs. So, okay, here is our letter N, and let's go and make it a serif font. And the first thing I'm going to do, I've got my grid, so I'm going to select this, and you will notice we gave this stem a little bit of a curve, so it doesn't quite fit the width anymore, but I'm going to center this stem in between two, between those grid points. All right, and there are several ways to do this, so this is certainly not the only way, or these ways are not the only ways. So I have the rectangular marquee tool, I have black fill and no stroke, and let's just go ahead and there we go. Well, if we wanted a slab serif, we could be done, right? We could hold down the Alt Option key and duplicate that. All right, and we could bring that over. And so we could be done. If you look really closely, I think I've noticed that this stem is a little bit longer than that stem. Since this is going to be hidden behind a serif, we can just bring that up. All right, if you wanted a slab serif, that's a good start, but we don't. So let's zoom in, and I'm going to select the serif and the stem and use the Pathfinder to join those together. All right, now let's go ahead and change this a little bit. An easy way to do it is with the white arrow. And once we select the white arrow, you see we get some little other options. Of course, we can always just move one point at a time. We could just move that up. We could even pull down a guideline from the ruler if we wanted to make those even. So right there, we even have something a little more powerful. Let's undo that. And let's try this. Zoom in, click that one, just that one point only. And there's a little circle that showed up right here. I can take that and I can curve that. Trying to, of course, remember what we did. So when we go to this side, we can be as precise as possible. Zoom out. Look how fantastic that looks. Of course, I was designing on my letter itself, and I wasn't designing the serif by itself. And I want to turn that into a template because I might want to use it again. So what I need to do there is to select my letter N, holding down the Option key or the Alt key, duplicate that, come in here. I'm going to use the line tool to segment, holding the Shift key down to go perfectly straight. And we might use the arrow key. Okay. So where does this serif become perfectly vertical? Let's do it that. Select the line and the shape using the Pathfinder divide. It turns it into a group. And we just want the serif out of the group. Let's pull the serif out of the group and delete everything else. So here we have our serif, and what we can do is we can duplicate this. We can put it off to the side and have that as our template. We can go to this side of the N and move that in. Okay, it belongs on this line. Now you can see that this line was the left side vertical is a little bit wider than the right side vertical. So we can line those up. And I don't want to just squish this with the black arrow. I want to use the white arrow. I'm going to select all of those points. So all of those points. And now I can use the left arrow to bring that in. Zoom in a little bit. Okay. Let's take the black arrow, select the letter N in the serif and Pathfinder join. Of course, I need to zoom in and see if that needs a little bit of cleanup work. Again, like in the last video, it made an extra point because it was just a hair off. So let's delete one of those. See, I deleted that one and it looked kind of off. So let's delete this other one. And that looks smooth and clean. So fantastic. Of course, there's a lot of other shapes of serifs that we could design. Did I save? I didn't save another copy of my letter N, but we can just do this quickly. Okay, let's say that's my stem. Some of the other things you could do when designing your serif. Right. So there's that. Let's try a couple things. You do notice that these little circles can do other things. So we could play with the inner circles, right? And we could do that. That's a perfectly standard serif. We could select this and bring it in a little bit. Okay, let me duplicate our temporary stem and make another. We can decide we can make it wider. Now at this point I do have two separate shapes, so we could select both of them and use the alignment palette. Let's align the bottoms. There we go. Okay, what can we do? We can take this point and we could bring that in. Of course, if you don't want to angle it by accident, you hold down the Shift key. I could even take that point and make it a little bit wider. That's a perfectly standard serif. Of course, tools we have now, they didn't have then, right? We can still curve that in. How cool is that? Once we join them together with the Pathfinder, then of course you could curve that in. You could do some more techniques. That's kind of an interesting one. All right. Now, if we designed and you like this side, we can duplicate this side, of course. I can take a line tool because I'm lined up with these grid lines. I can make a vertical, or I can select my vertical line and my stem, and I can use the alignment palette to vertically align those in the center if they're not perfectly lined up. And now I can use the divide, open up the group, take the one I want out of the group, delete the rest of the group. Once we have this, we can go to the reflect tool. The reflect tool is hiding under the rotate tool. And if we double click that on the toolbar, we want to reflect. See, turn on the preview. We want to reflect not horizontally, but in this case vertically. And if we hit the copy button, then we have two of them. Using the black arrow, I'm going to slide that over, holding down the shift key, making sure they overlap just at least a couple of points. Selecting both of those and joining them together. I was playing around the other day and I did something that I thought was pretty cool. So let's take this top and add a little more of a flared serif. And what I'm going to do is line that up with that grid. I think that will be good. I hope you're getting the idea of how these things work now. Right, anytime you can use the shapes tools instead of the pen tool, your line is a lot smoother, and then you're cleaning things up. Or let's do it this way. I can even just use my existing line. Right, I can extend that up. I can get the plus and add a point there. Once we've added a point on our line, we can bring that out. How cool is that? We can bring that down if we want it to be a little bigger. Now we can even do that. Actually, I think that's too tall now. Of course, I've already made my curve, so that means I've got more points to deal with, but I can simply just, oops, sorry about that, click off of it. If you have trouble selecting points that are close together, you can use the lasso tool. So let's use the lasso and just select all of those points. Go back to the white arrow and use up on the keyboard, and take all of that up. Black arrow, click off of it, zoom out. All right, there's just a few serifs. Of course, you can have fun designing any shape of serif that you like.